Alright, got a crafting video today. Gonna try to speedrun my way through crafting all of the rare items for my Penance champion, which would be a scepter, shield, 2 rings, a pair of gloves, a belt, and a couple cluster jewels. And just using Craft of Exile to show the processes start to finish, how I made the items, and for the most part they're pretty straightforward. Not necessarily going to be cheap, but pretty straightforward methods. And we're going to start right away with the scepter, which is a +2 scepter, +1 all, +1 fizz. It's got spell damage and cast speed and some double damage. It's really nice to get a spell damage fractured base on this, actually. Not necessary, but if you are on Trade League, hardcore trade or softcore, I would 100% recommend getting a fractured base because you're just going to probably end up with a better weapon than if you didn't. The only exception would be if you want to really heavily min-max and try to do like an influenced exalt at the end of the craft, where you can see I just did a YOLO exalt at the end and hit some local crit chance that doesn't do anything, but not really important. We're going to show for this one the process would be the same either way. It's just a matter of having guaranteed spell damage is good and makes the craft easier. But so for this one I am going to go straight to the emulator. Actually, sometimes the calculator on Craft of Exile doesn't do well with fractured items. I guess the one thing I can show here is the way to get +1 all spells on scepters and wands. Wands can be slightly different. What item level is this? The item level can matter a little bit too. Like an item level 84 scepter, we want to get +1 all spells. You are going to do it with a corroded, shuddering, metallic, etheric fossil combo, 1 in 5. You are below item level 83. See if it changes. Oh, I meant to do 82. Pick the mod again. Becomes a 1 in 4, so slightly better because at 83 it adds black chaos to attacks, but not a huge deal. You get really good odds of hitting it. And then from there we have, usually you would have to annul, because I'll show it in the emulator. We start with a new item. I'm going to start with an unfractured base just to show it off. But go one-handed weapons. We go scepter. Doesn't matter what base we pick here. We're just doing for crafting example, right? So we need to alch this so that it'll let us fossil it. Grab that same combo: metallic, corroded, etheric, shuddering, and about 1 in 5. There you go. Got the +1 spell. The problem is most of the time you are going to have a spell damage roll. Almost always when you hit the +1 all spells, you are going to have a spell damage roll. This one's actually better than it usually is. It's usually even worse than this. What's then what ends up happening is you need to get the +1 all spells isolated as the only prefix, which basically means you have to annul. This one got really lucky and got rid of it on the first try, but it's like 50-50 of which one you're going to get rid of first. This situation, like this exact example, you would maybe even try to do some other shenanigans with because it has really high cast speed. But for the sake of this, we are going to get it all the way down. It would just be like that. Now, if I had started with a fractured base, like my scepter is, it would look like this. But this would be a fractured mod. And so instead of having to hope for good spell damage to roll or hope that we hit the annulment orb, you would just have good spell damage. And then you want to annul and maybe lock prefix scour or whatever. Get the item to look just like this with just those 2 mods. And then you're going to multi-mod it. Now we're going to be adding in our +1 fizz, which is guaranteed. Multi-mod, prefix can't be changed, cannot roll attack modifiers. And we need a harvest, augment, physical. Because we're blocking attack modifiers and we are forcing it to give us a prefix because there's only a prefix open, the only outcome is +1 physical spells. If you're a little bit lucky, you'll keep the prefix can't be changed. This one actually did not keep it. So you would end up having to craft it back on anyway, because the next step of the process is to do an ashling unveil, and we're pretty much at the end here already. We're going to get a veiled suffix guaranteed. we're gonna bench craft a damage per charge. Doesn't have to be damage per power charge. Damage per any charge works. This is just the best to block before unveiling. You hit your unveil, and then you hope for... We got two of the good mods, actually. It would be either cast speed, or double damage while focused, or just regular double damage. In this situation, I would actually probably take the double damage while focused. The unveiled cast speed is the same amount of cast speed as a bench crafted one. It just comes with Arcane Surge on kill, so when you're clearing, you do get a bit of extra cast speed. But for me at least, this was a bossing focused character. And actually here, you could, if you wanted to risk it, you could lock prefixes again, because we got a double damage unveil. And you could do a very risky, very expensive harvest augment caster. And it actually got rid of the prefix lock instead of getting rid of the double damage. So now we'd actually have a bit of a better weapon. Crit chance, it's not a crit build, but it would help with LD overload. Or otherwise you would ignore that step and you would just benchcraft cast speed. And regular exalt some nonsense that's probably useless. And you're done. Scepter done. Easy peasy. That's the scepter. Shield. We have a life, spell damage, +1 all or +1 lightning spells, shield, and then unveiled double damage suffix. And then like my weapon, I did a YOLO exalt after the fact. Hit a useless mod. Doesn't really matter to me. But you could try to get better than that if you needed to. And this one is similar in a few ways, where we have our one guaranteed mod from the fracture, which is life. And what we're going to do on this one is we are going to grab a shield base. I'm going to make this thing get the fractured mod so I can show it better. It's going to be a little bit screwy. Let me just force on a life roll here. Then turn it into a fractured mod. Just undo, redo until Craft of Exile lets us have our mod. There you go. So you have your fractured mod, good to go. At this point, you start your crafting. You're going to be using Harvest, Reforge, Caster. That wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know how I just clicked Reforge Caster once and hit tier 1 spell damage, because it's extremely, exceedingly rare. What I was going to show is you click it a bunch, you get spell damage most of the time, but not every time. And you just keep doing this until you get good spell damage. And if there's a third prefix, you have to annul it. I hit T2. Okay, Craft of Exile's rigged. Not the point. But you know, you spam it. I thought I was gonna have to force a mod on because I wouldn't see it. But it's like at this point, actually what you do on this one most likely is you would benchcraft cannot roll caster modifiers, because again, getting this high spell damage is rare. And then we can annul. And it can't get rid of the spell damage. We got rid of our other prefix, which is good. We have 2 of our prefixes. To get the third one, we need to first remove this, craft any prefix, doesn't matter, we just need to fill a prefix so we can exalt a filler suffix. Now we have 2 prefix, 2 suffix. And then we're going to craft prefixes can't be changed. And we are going to harvest augment lightning. The only 2 lightning prefixes on a shield, a ES shield, is +1 lightning spells and % lightning damage. We can't hit % lightning damage because we already have % spell damage. So guaranteed. Oh, I'm on Reforge. I need to put it the right setting. Use the augment lightning, guaranteed +1 lightning. And we have an open suffix still, which means that we can lock prefixes again. Scour. Now we're down to our prefixes done. Craft lock prefixes again, and we're doing hashling, just like the last one. On this, you want to block before unveiling. You want to block a hybrid attribute roll, so like strength and dexterity. And then we're looking for double damage. Boom, double damage mod. And then I would benchcraft. You could benchcraft some random nonsense to block, so like mana regen. If you want to do your YOLO slam for the last mod, whatever it may be, 22 hits, so it's pretty useless, whatever. And then benchcraft the regular double damage. And shield done. Easy. That quick. So weapon and shield, both done. Really powerful items. Not necessarily cheap to make, but really like easy, straightforward. The two rings here are very similar. They both have cast speed and chaos res. One has all res, which I didn't necessarily need all res. I just was fishing for something useful on a third suffix. I did quite like the all res here. And then the other one has dexterity. So I think when I crafted this dexterity one, dexterity essences were kind of expensive because there wasn't a huge supply in hardcore. And harvest life force was very cheap. And I actually crafted this by using Reforged Caster, which guarantees cast speed. Doesn't guarantee good cast speed, you might get at the bottom tier. Guarantees cast speed. And I just spammed that until I hit T1 dex. Right now, it would be way cheaper to use dexterity essences until you hit cast speed. But you could do either or. So I'm going to show using dexterity essences because that's generally how you do it. And then this one is you can either use cast speed essences for guaranteed cast speed, or you can reforge chaos. Reforge chaos is a pretty good idea here, and I think that was what I did because I needed specifically a higher tier of chaos res, where whichever one you do, cast speed or chaos, you can force the other one later, but you don't know what tier you're going to get, and missing at that point is a bit more expensive. So I'll show the reforge chaos for that one just to have two different setups. And we will start with the dexterity one. Jewelry, ring. And we'll just grab the base we're using. We need our essences. We are just going to spam our dexterity essence. Really, in this case, it would be until we hit either cast speed or chaos res of an acceptable amount. Again, Craft of Exile is somehow extremely rigged. We hit chaos res T1 on the second try. I think I looked and it was like 1 in 20-ish odds to get like T2 or better chaos res, T2 or better cast speed. So at this point, we have a third suffix, which is bad. We need to annul it. We killed the dexterity. I can just undo here and keep going until it gets rid of the right one, because we've gotten to that part. Okay, so now you'd have your open suffix. And what you would do is you would lock suffixes and reforge caster from harvest. And we are guaranteed to get our cast speed. We might get a low tier of cast speed. We'll see. But guaranteed cast speed. Yeah, that one's a low tier. If you're trying to min-max, you would try to annul that. Maybe you miss it. Maybe you have to start over. You get back to the same process. You go again. Now this one now has all T1 mods. Super good. From here, if you're feeling risky, you could lock suffixes again and just use a Veiled Chaos Orb. It's risky because you might hit like a 6 mod item and screw your item up really bad. Otherwise, you would lock suffixes, scour, lock suffixes again, and ashling. And now we have our veiled prefix. We are doing this to get the life roll. It's almost guaranteed that you unveil life so long as you block mana on your benchcraft. But you will occasionally get one that looks like this with just the 3 flat lightning or 3 flat elemental damage rolls. Hey. There you go. Max life. And then from here, it's basically just an influence exalt. I think I did Crusader on both of my rings because you can hit spell damage, which is pretty good. There's some like flat lightning, which isn't great. And then there's life on hit with spells, which is really nice. Like lightning damage against shock damage. It's a decent amount of flat damage, but it actually doesn't do a lot for this character. Maybe you could hit spell damage would be fantastic, right? Or like life on hit with spells. And then last mod, you're just going to benchcraft. I think one of my rings has percent damage. Oh no, they both have percent damage. on this character. So I just filled it out with a bit even more damage. But that's the dexterity ring done. For the other ring, it's very similar process, just the start is a bit different. So I said I'm going to go for the high chaos res one, which means we're starting with chaos reforges and harvest, which always gives you chaos res. Doesn't necessarily always give you good chaos res, but it always gives you chaos res. And so the goal here would be spam this until I hit like decent chaos res and a decent second suffix. So like actually this one's pretty good. T2 chaos, life regen. I actually like life regen here. I probably would have accepted that. All res isn't even that bad either. But we need to get rid of one of them. Okay, so there you go. All res is gone. Now I have chaos res. I have an acceptable second suffix because again I think cast speed's or life regen's pretty good. And now we need to add the cast speed. Same process as before. Suffixes can't be changed. Harvest, reforge, caster. Guaranteed cast speed. I want to do it a few times until you get a, good tier. T2 I'd probably accept. Need to recraft this again. Wipe the prefixes. Craft the suffix lock again. Back to Ashling. And from here it's just the same, right? Doing the veiled prefix, I'm just going to click the unveil. YOLO there, and then boom. Crusader, Exalt, and Benchcraft done. Bolt ring, done. Easy. Just got a couple more items left on the main gear. Gloves, super simple. Hardly even need to show them in the Craft of Exile, but I'll do it anyway. It's just life gloves with suppression, dexterity, and then I've got my attack and cast speed while focused on. Ideally, my attack and cast speed while focused would be unveiled tier of it, but the way that I set up the unveil, I was going to hit a prefix or a suffix. I hit a prefix, I got hybrid life, and I just took it, kept it. So I've got like a bit extra HP on it. But gloves are simple. We are going to... And they could have been pure dex base as well. Strength dex is slightly nicer because little armor is nice, but it's harder to hit the suppression, so bit of a costlier craft. This is cheating again to get myself the fractured mod. Here we go. This one's simple. It's spam dexterity essences until I hit tier 1 suppression. Gonna take a lot. I think I actually just hit it on that second try. Or not second try. Again, somehow just hit it. This is actually a perfect example of what I would kind of want one to look like too. So at this point, I want to get an unveiled suffix, but I'll probably accept an unveiled prefix. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna benchcraft. Suffixes can't be changed. And it's going to go to Ashling. And you can see that had a veiled suffix. Ashling removes a mod before adding the veiled mod, so even though the suffixes were full, you can hit a suffix. You can see sometimes it'll be a prefix, sometimes it'll be a suffix. But either way, they can both be acceptable. Like I said, if I got a suffix, the only one I would want is this, attack and cast speed all focused. Like that's perfect. Otherwise, if I got a prefix, Viz reduction while focused wouldn't be bad. The hybrid life wouldn't be bad. And then like you saw in mine, attack and cast speed while focused would be the benchcraft. And then it would probably just be a YOLO Exalt the final prefix and hope for something cool. And gloves are done. Last piece of gear is this belt. It's a hunter belt with life and percent life, and then some resistances on the suffixes. There's kind of two ways to go about this. You can either craft a belt with everything besides the percent life that's not influenced at all, and then use a hunter exalt and hope you hit percent life. That usually ends up being kind of the cost-effective way, because there's not much you can hit on a belt when you hunter exalt. It's basically just percent life or percent chaos. If we go hunter influence here, there's a third prefix you can hit that is gain flash charge on crit, but it's super rare, 250 weight, whereas the others are 1,000 and 1,500. And the reason I say that the hunter exalt strategy is usually pretty cost effective is if you hit chaos damage, which you don't actually want, you can usually just sell it and pay for the cost of that belt. Otherwise, you get one that is hunter influenced already, and you just roll and try to get both the life rolls at once. And that's what I did. That way, ends up being a little bit tougher on the suffixes, but a little bit easier, I guess, on the life, and you don't have to worry about flipping and reselling items. But so I'll show it the way I did it, which was a belt, hunter influenced. I actually got intentionally item level 84 because 85, I don't know if it adds new mods. 85, 86, there's like a couple new mods that don't matter to us, so it makes it slightly harder to hit the good things. And all I did was pristine fossil, spam away until I hit good life roll with a good percent life roll. I just spam, spam, spam. And it's kind of rare. It's pretty tough. You might have to go a bunch. Like this one has T2, right? I can kind of cheat a little bit here and pretend that we hit the good one by just adding it in manually. Right, and so like this would be a really nice roll. We have T1 life and T1% life. I don't really care about the third prefix. There's like armor you could roll that's good, but it's really hard to hit at that point. And then from here, it's a kind of scuffed, kind of risky thing where you would be crafting prefixes can't be changed and doing harvest reforges for. Let me double check. I don't think it matters. Yeah. You could do reforge chaos even to force chaos res. I think my belt might have just randomly hit a good fire resist roll when I hit the life, but you reforge chaos if you need chaos res. You could do reforge, fire cold lightning if you need regular res. And then just fish until you get something acceptable. There's a slight chance whenever you're doing this every time that it becomes like that, like a 6 mod item, which you don't want to see. Then you might have to annul. And, if you get unlucky, it can get pretty costly. There you go. That one hit big fire as a roll. If you get one like this exactly, now we want to do our unveiled mod. What we actually want to do is multi-mod it and prefix lock it. Which is basically just instead of having Ashling have a 50-50 to hit the prefix can't be changed, now Ashling has 2 mods it can hit that isn't our good roll, being that fire res. So it ups our odds of success. And then we would change our block, which I think is, again, a hybrid attribute block. We have to remove this craft first. Dex, block that, unveil, go for a hybrid res, perfect, and then benchcraft the final mod. And belt's done. And so that covers all the gear. The only thing left is there's 2 cluster jewels. I have one physical one, which is a 3 notable physical damage, as well as a 3 notable elemental damage. Most importantly, with the Doriani's lesson notable for some Ellie Leech. And they're both completely different in how you make them. I'm not even going to go through them here, really. Better to just use the calculator and kind of show what you're working with. The physical jewel is quite easy. You'll see. One thing about cluster jewels in general, you want to keep note on what item level you need for the notables you want. So like, I don't want Grim Oath. Here. My suffix notable that I wanted was Furious Assault, or Force Multiplier is okay too. Grim Oath is 68. And then the prefixes, really want Battle Hardened, and then Ironbreaker. We don't want Master of the Fundamentals because it has reduced Ellie damage. So if we look at all the notables we want, the highest eye level requirement is 50. So ideally, we would actually use a jewel under item level 68 and above item level 50. I think mine's above 68. You can see, yeah, it's item level 70. That was just because lack of supply, or maybe the lower eye level ones costed too much, because it's still pretty easy to make. But so if we click both of these are both suffixes, it's going to auto put them into the same group. So now it's picking to get either one or the other. Then we want battle hardened and we want iron breaker. And we separate them so that it picks one of each. And we can use the fossil calculator, but it's just going to tell us to use jagged fossils, basically. You just spam jagged fossils. And you can see 46 tries on average. That's assuming a very high item level. If you put in the item level of what I'm using, and then click this, you can see it's level 28. Here, let me show a high eye level. High eye level, 1 in 46. Item level 70, 1 in 28. Item level 67, 1 in 13. So it gets a lot easier. But the difference between 13 jagged fossils and 28 jagged fossils isn't that much chaos. So you can make do. And you just spam the jagged fossils until you get the 3 notables you want. Easy peasy done. We start over. We go to the final item, which is the Elemental Damage Cluster Jewel. We want Doriani's Lesson. Item level 68 mod. And then really the prefixes, I'm kind of cool with whatever here. This thing is a bit of a pain to roll, and all I did was I alt-regaled. Basically, spam alts until you get Doriani's Lesson and any prefix notable, and regal and hope for a second prefix notable. It's pretty rare. If I do this, we can see to get this is showing Doriani's Lesson with any other notable is about a 1 in 300. And then to regal, we can do this. If you had, most of the time when you regal is going to have Doriani's Lesson and Prismatic Heart, because Prismatic Heart's just the most common. You're looking at 1 in 49 regals to hit one of the other 3. I think what's actually going to happen, what happened both times for me, was I actually had like Doriani's Lesson and some other prefix notable, so like Sadist, for example. It becomes 1 in 15 regals. What you're most likely going to end up with is a magic jewel with Doriani's Lesson and something that isn't Prismatic Heart, and then you're going to regal Prismatic Heart. But either way, probably the one item out of every single piece of gear for this character that's actually kind of just a pain in the ass. It's not even necessarily the most expensive, but it's just a pain to make. If you're on trade and you can buy a triple notable LE cluster with Doriani's Lesson, go for it. A good price. But that covers all of them. That's how you make all the gear for this character. Hopefully the video was helpful. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you made it this far. And thanks for watching. See ya.